Americans of Reddit. What is the scariest place in the US? East St. Louis. By far. Spent a week there on a trip. Walked around like I was at home. In afterthought, it probably wasn't a good idea. Stayed in a cheap motel, and in that week I witnessed 2 assaults in progress just in the parking lot. Watched on 3 separate occasions people limping bloody down the street after having been attacked. The Burger King across the street was robbed and a worker murdered. Hazmat teams dealt with a rolling meth lab in the motel parking lot. And to top it off, was held at gunpoint while the gas station was being robbed. Until now I had no idea it was statistically that bad. I just assumed I was there during a crazy week. You spent a week in East St. Louis for a trip? Are you daft? Well, they demolished it. But it used to be Cabrini Green in Chicago. Candyman is coming. Camden, New Jersey is the shitholiest shithole ever to exist. Police force went on strike because of low pay. Criminals took over. Only place I've ever been for work where the client told me it's best to leave their facility before sunset. I was driving through once with a friend for a concert, and these cops pulled up next to us and said, "Don't stop, just keep going." Even through the red lights. That was insane. All I had to do was Google Camden, New Jersey, and boom. Story about one of the cops in Camden getting caught masturbating in Starbucks. Is that the famous Frappuccino I keep hearing about? OPA Laka. Florida. Alabama Avenue has the highest crime rate in the states for such a small area. City Hall. I don't know where to start. As a 21-year-old Australian living in suburban Utah, I know a lot of my mates back home would be absolutely terrified if they knew about the alcohol laws here. I have family in Utah. Apparently not that long ago, you'd have to apply for an alcohol license separate from your government ID to drink alcohol. And when mixing hard drinks, bartenders had to go behind a curtain, as though it were pornographic or something. Mormons. Dude. Weird shit. No kidding. I live in Utah and it's very annoying. Golden Corral on a Saturday night. Worse during Sunday lunch hours. Worse, when you get stoned with your best friend on Veterans Day and Golden Corral thinks you're there from the service and you're too high to tell them otherwise, so they sit you down with men in their 70s and 80s who give you a good old-fashioned talking to. We didn't even know what Golden Corral was or that it happened to be Veterans Day. Colorado City, Arizona. Founded by the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints Church, and most of the citizens are polygamists. Driving through there is really creepy. People either immediately run inside women and children, or keep a creepy eye on you, the men. You know, my husband and I drove through there on our way to the Grand Canyon and immediately sensed something terrible had happened there. Creepy, weird place. Camden and Newark are both particularly awful. Wasn't Camden under martial law for a while? Yeah, there were talks of that when they were firing their entire police force. And nobody wants to fix it either. If you want to ruin Chris Christie's chance at becoming president, ask him about what he did to improve Camden. You won't hear a thing because he treats it like a lost cause. Being from Philly, there are 4 reasons to go to Camden. Attend a concert, attend a minor league baseball game, visit the aquarium, or die. And the first 3 are all right on the riverbank and are drastically different than the rest of the city. Right on. I lived in Philly for 4 years of medical school. My sister lived in Camden for law school. She was under strict instructions to never leave the Victor building except to go to class and come straight back. It's hilarious but true. If you run red lights in Camden at night, no one will stop you. West Baltimore, Northwest Baltimore and East Baltimore. Fuck those East Side bitches. Avon Barksdale. Surprisingly, he forgot to mention Amsterdam. Drove through the bad part of Oakland, lost one night on a road trip. It was about 5 blocks worth. The only cars on the road were us. A few gnarly beaters speeding on the wrong side of the road as often as not, and about 12 speeding cop cars who didn't even bother to chase the crazy beaters. We heard about 20 gunshots in the space of maybe 5 minutes. We drove by 2 locations with about 5 Colombian pesos cars pulled over and flashing. We drove up and over a hill and were in what appeared to be a rather upscale neighborhood. That was weird. Centralia, PA. Pennsylvania. Yes. I remember my grandpa driving me through Centralia in the 70s. A lot of the houses were already abandoned and there was haze in the air. "This town is on fire," he said. "It will all be gone when you grow up." He was right. Edit. Spacing. Still on fire, though. Milk Jr. Boulevard. Pick a city. Oh my God, we're on the corner of Milk Boulevard and Cesar Chavez Street. I was on the corner of Milk and Malcolm X in Dallas. Funny enough, Malcolm X runs parallel to Cesar Chavez, which I had been on minutes earlier. Unfortunately, all of this was because my friend's mom got lost. East Baltimore. Had to go up in one of the high-rise complexes many years ago. Hit the up button for the elevator. Door opens and no lights. I walked up. Conversely, had to picked up a kid in the same part of town. Asked me if I would buy him lunch because he hadn't eaten since breakfast the day before. Sat at a Hardee's and had a nice conversation with him. He just wanted out and planned on going to college. Wow. You are a good person. I hope he made it. Me as well. He had already graduated and was having a hard time getting a job. He was able to get some grants and was starting at the local community college the next semester. I help folks find funding for medical costs and he had an outstanding bill I helped him with. He was very polite and cordial. He was from a broken home and while his mom did provide a roof over his head, food was not plentiful. I at that time was struggling as well but was making enough to survive. I had to scramble to find the extra $5 to make it to payday but managed. Based on my time spent on /r/skinwalkers. Navajo reservations in Arizona. I live in Oklahoma. The Native Americans here tell stories of the creatures here, little people, Stag-Innis, etc. There is a place in Sasakwa, OK, called Bird Creek Church. My friend's grandma said that skinwalkers were all around that place. So one weekend my friends and I wanted an adventure. We went. We heard things speaking in the woods. The one thing that I will never forget was when my friend was standing next to me and we looked into the dark woods. We saw a dark figure behind a rock. It wasn't facing us and it was breathing hard. We were freaking out. And then it got up and I swear on my life. It was about 8 feet tall and it had wings and it chased us. That was the most fucked up shit I have ever been through. They told me that I have to keep tobacco under my bed and around the outside of my house. To keep out the skinwalkers, they blessed it. Edit. Stag-Innis are not to be talked about and they scare the people here. For good reason. I have no idea what I saw that night. Edit 2. I see from the response that you want me to tell you more. Okay. Stag-Innis are dangerous. They usually come in the form of an owl. Their human form is a medicine man who performs bad medicine. They are a sign of death. Was it Kevin Durant? The Top Gear guys said driving through Alabama in flamboyantly decorated cars was the scariest thing they've ever done. Which is saying a hell of a lot. Link. That gas station is 1 mile from the border. They got 1 mile into Alabama before shit hit the fan. I also grew up in Alabama, and rural Alabama scares the crap out of me. Born, raised, and live here. There are places I won't go regardless of color of the area. People are rough in the rural areas. Sorry if I sound dumb, but please explain. Is it just extreme Bible Belt or like racism? Or what? If it's anything like the less populated areas of the Appalachians, then it is past even racism. The default setting towards all outsiders is hostility. I've found that people in the Appalachians are actually quite hospitable when not on meth. Seems to vary from valley to valley and holler to holler. If you're white, Camden, you think at first it won't be that bad, but it really is. I've heard stories from a friend in school who lives there and it just isn't good. Conversely, I'd say for black people Gloucester City is one of the worst, and it is a stone's throw from Camden ironically. Racism and a long-seated Irish American Catholic demographic has inhabited there far too long. Camden, New Jersey. Go because you work at Campbell Soups. Stay because you like violence. Visit because you like what a post-apocalyptic wasteland looks like. East Oakland. You're trippin'. I'm hanging out at 98th and International right now. And it's so hold on. This nice young man would like to borrow my PH. Walmart. Can confirm, source. Have seen many things in Walmarts that can't be unseen. I've been to all 48 of the contiguous states. 33 of them more than once and lived in 9 of them. I got 3/4 down the list of comments and realized I've been to all of those places. Visiting rundown urban environments is sort of a hobby of mine. In my experience, bad areas of cities aren't really that scary but rather depressing. Poverty, prostitution, drug abuse and gang activity is what you get, but if you mind your own business, people generally leave you alone. There are only a couple of occasions that come to mind where I could say I felt unsure of my safety. In autumn 2000, I found myself walking the streets of Cherry Hill, Baltimore with luggage and no money at 2 a.m. I got off the Greyhound and just took a wrong turn. Some guys were giving me a hard time, but luckily an older gentleman pulled over and offered me a ride to where I was going. I was definitely nervous but not really scared. In 2004, I spent the night in a car in Jamaica, Queens, New York, and that was nerve-wracking because people would actually stop and look into the car while passing by but didn't have problems. The scariest semi-urban experience was probably in El Paso, Texas in 2003. I had been driving all day and decided to pull over at a rest stop to catch some Z's. I was pretty naive then and was completely oblivious to the fact that I had been a stone's throw away from Juarez, Mexico. At about 2 a.m. I awoke to 3 Mexican dudes slamming on my window. To this day I don't know what they were saying because I don't speak Spanish, but I could tell I was fucked because they were obviously in a panic mode. Just then a cop car came from nowhere with screeching tires. He had been chasing them and luckily got to them before they got to me. Afterwards I found out they were cartel guys and the cops said they probably would have killed me and taken the car. Who knows if that was true, but let's just say I've never been back. Those were all situations that I put myself in and really should have been avoided. Nowadays when I visit bad neighborhoods, ate barbecue in Compton, Los Angeles just last week, I go during the day and make sure I don't put myself in situations where I'm alone. You sound like a really fun idiot. I mean that in the best way, haha.